follow up on yesterday. Today we would like to look at this same model on the spreadsheet, but a little bit different. Now we are going to compare two presidential elections, 2016 and 2020. So this is basically the same as based on the same skeleton of what we did yesterday, but we added a lot of different muscles and sort of structures. Now, the cells that have a yellow shade is actually those that I have taken from the public domain. And the red line, remember what we said yesterday? The red part, this whole thing was what it should have been like. This whole row of red numbers is what I believe would be like if the actual numbers were reported. However, we know that what we see now seems to be an inflated number, which is very hard to explain, which is Biden has got 79,362,181 votes. Now that seems to be way higher than anybody could have expected given the background. Now the exercise yesterday was to work backward and say, okay, this turnout rate seems to be not normal. How about if we have a turnout that seems to be acceptable, which is slightly higher than last election, which was 86.8%, but say we have a better turnout, but only a few percentage points, so it's 90%. And what will happen if we keep the other numbers the same and we work backward? That was what we did yesterday. And then actually Biden should have gotten not so bad. In fact, almost on par with Clinton, with Hillary Clinton, but slightly worse off. So this difference between the 79 million and the 61 million, I call that the magic. But the better word for it is fraud. Okay, now today we're going to compare last election. Now those, again here you can see that those with the yellow shade are the actual numbers taken from the public domain. We all know that Clinton got a little bit, almost 66 million of the popular vote. That's why they were whining for 4 years, because Trump actually got less as far as popular vote is concerned. Now today I'm not talking about that debate. I'm just giving you these numbers and I'm doing an exercise here. So if we have, this is the popular vote that Hillary Clinton got, and that is what Trump got. And then this was the turnout, and this was the turnout per eligible voters, and that was the population of the United States in 2016. This is the most updated population as of now. Of course, every minute we have more babies and we have people die and we have immigrants and refugees and all these things. So this is the latest number, the most updated number we can find. Now, we look at these numbers and we say, okay, it's Biden now, but it was Clinton before, but it's still the Democrats. So the Democrats, they have a base, and the Republicans, they have a base too. But on the other side, it was still Trump. It was Trump pants, and it is still Trump pants. Now, we look at this, it's like a game of golf. Okay? I'm competing with you, but I'm also comparing with myself. Now, Trump, if he was playing a game of golf 4 years ago, and this was his score, and he just played a game of golf 2 weeks ago, and this is his current score. He has done much better. He has improved. He has improved, as we say, almost 11 million. 10.5 million is the number. That is his improvement right here. Now, if we look at the Democrats as a team, okay, Clinton, doesn't matter. It's the same base. Now it's Biden and Harris. And they have also improved. They have improved, spectacular improvement, 13.5 million. Now I'm trying to explain, it's comparing, okay, I'm playing golf. So I'm doing better, but my opponent is also doing better, but way better. Way better. But this is not the same as a game of golf because my opponent is actually taking something from me. And I probably is taking something from their base too, right? You take something from me, I take something from you. Now, we look at this 10.5 million. We look at who are the losers. The independents, the third party, the people who don't belong to the big Democrats or the Republicans, the Joe Jorgensen and those people, okay? Last election, there were almost 8 million people voting, but not voting for blue or green or red, voting for the independents. The people, everybody with the right mind knows there's no chance they would get elected, but somehow this is a gesture. For what happened was they lost out almost 5 million. This year, they only got 2.8 million. So some of these votes actually could have gone somewhere. So my bold assumption is, because we know that Trump's game, like he's improving his golf game, he's doing better than the last tournament, and then he actually has a solid game. So he took this 4.5 million from the third party people. Okay, he took the whole thing. So they declined from 7.78 million to 2.83 million because those votes actually were transferred to the Republicans, to the Trump-Pence ticket. Okay, so this is how this is his gain. Now this part is my try to break down on how Trump improved his game. So he took 4.95 million from the third party independents, from those people, the people who used to vote as a gesture to someone who they could associate with, but they knew did not have a chance to get elected. Now they changed their mind. They want to dump the whole thing to the GOP, to Trump, to make him, to give him 4 more years. This is my assumption. But also, there could be some walkaways. Because you see, yesterday, I worked out that my estimate, well, this is slightly different because yesterday I used a lower turnout. Today I give them more room. So I actually be more generous to say more turnout and more people voted the Democrats. Instead of 58 million, as we mentioned, or 58 point something, now it's 61 million. So the Democrats, they got 61.4 million. Still, they lost in a landslide. But they only doing slightly worse off than last time. And then they lost 4.4 million. And these are the famous walkaways. Now, you went to a lot of those rallies of the campaigns of Trump all over the battleground states and elsewhere. We had a breakdown of the people who participated there. There was a substantial amount of registered Democrats who actually attended those rallies. So I think if they actually, the Democrats, they have a smaller turnout this time, and they lost 4.4 million. Obviously, these people went to Trump. So Trump got 4.9 from the independent, and they got 4.4 from the walkaways. And then this another 1 million something is from those people who have registered and never voted. They have no affiliation, but they were indifferent. They were not enthusiastic, but somehow this year they wanted to vote for Trump because they saw that we have a great economy. We have, seems to be the president is keeping his promises, no new wars, and also unemployment has reduced a lot among the minorities. That also includes the Black Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Hispanics, right? So we see a lot of people who were registered voters but who did not vote or not enthusiastic enough. Now they came to support Trump. So that's we give it a 1.1 million. Now the whole thing added up to just 10.5 million, and this is exactly how Trump improved his gain from 62.98 million last time to 73.5 million this time. So this is Trump's gain. Now his gain is from the walkaways, the people he stole from the Democratic base, and the people who actually switched from the independents, and also the people who have not voted before. So it's 10.5 million. Now this is the part that we would have a big problem here. This is the part that is different from a game of golf, because we have two major candidates from two major parties who have very opposite platforms, and people in a very divisive America have to choose one or the other. So we cannot have gain. Now this is the part that I think it defies all logic, because if those numbers are right, both the Democrats and the Republicans got improvement, like they both excel in their golf game. But unfortunately, this is not a game of golf. This is like a football match. A football match, you have only one winner. You cannot have both moving in the same side, and you cannot have people like, opponents on either side both improved their performances. Because if I score, that means you lost a goal, right? You score, I lost a goal. But now we both score and we both get more goals, we get something more. And then if we have, as we've done it, we can explain very clearly about, how Trump improved his game. But then if you look at Biden, he's not as attractive to his base comparing to Obama. Obama was the first Black American president, and Hillary could have been the first woman president. Now those two at that point in time were very appealing to the voting public. But Biden had great difficulties in the Democratic primaries, and he could barely sort of survive. And then in his ticket, we have a very unpopular Kamala Harris. So how could the combination of the two get so much enthusiasm that they did not only sort of dramatize and excited the base of the Democrats, they also get 10 million or more people from elsewhere who either did not vote before or who did not vote before, and suddenly they jump in and then they line up and vote for Biden. No, this is unlikely. But then if you look at the flip, we can see that there are a lot of walkaways and a lot of Democrats who have attended the Trump campaigns, but we don't have any reports of Republicans who actually massively turned to the other side, except for the Bush, Romney, McCain's widow, and those are very tiny. I'm not saying that they are not important people, but they don't represent a populist movement. And we have people who actually have no influence, like the Lincoln Project. So we have the Rhinos, the Lincoln Project. There has been like McCain, Romney, and Bush family. Then these people could not actually be representative of the populist base of the Republicans. And we can see that, as I mentioned last time and many times before, we have 4 elections going on at the same time. We have the Senate, we have the House, and we have the governors, right? So you can see the performance of the Republican Party has been dramatically improved in all fronts except the presidential race. And even in the presidential race, Trump actually improved if we only compare himself to himself. And those people who actually got elected in the House, Senate, and become governors, those were actually representing a solidarity with Trump, the president. And then they campaign for each other, as you can see from all these rallies, right? So we don't have to explain that. What I'm trying to say is that the Republican Party actually has improved. And the numbers, they all look good. And Trump actually has improved. If you look at the popular vote comparing to last time. So it's very hard to argue that at the same time as Trump has stolen from the base of the Democrats, as you can see from the walkaways, that Biden could have been possibly doing the same thing at the same time. It can only go one way. Okay, I take the people from your base, or you take the people from my base. They cannot happen together. So if Biden could not get those from that base, where did he get the votes from? Where did he get the votes from? This is the part that I think is quite clear, and I call that magic. And then you can look at the next chart. Now, this is the chart that we have shown yesterday about Wisconsin. We all know that after they stopped counting in the middle of the night, and then at 3:42 in the morning, we had 143,000 ballots dumped, and then to the system, and then from a steady and comfortable lead of 51%, Trump has lost ground, and it became a tight race. And in the end, Biden won by a tight margin. And you look at this. This is Michigan. And in Michigan, we have at 6:31 a.m., a dump of 149,772 votes. And among those, Biden get 96%. And also, if you notice that throughout the counting, we occasionally get dumps of these votes from for the blues, that they're massive, but they were not as massive as this one. And then the healthy and comfortable lead that of 54% that Trump had for most of the night gradually eroded to a tie when that 149,000 was done at 6:31, and by the time day breaks, and then we see a lead of Biden, and Michigan was cold. Now this is another battleground state that the pattern is very similar to Wisconsin, and we can see that this may explain for the Biden magic. So in summary, I can explain the performance of Trump-Pence. They have done even if we take these numbers as accurate, last election they got 62.8 million, 62.98 million, sorry. And this year they got 73.5 million. So they have a very remarkable improvement, and that explained from the walkaways from the taken from the Democratic base, and also the people who switched from the independents to something more meaningful, other than just a gesture of voting for somebody they like who would never have a chance. Now they put their bet on Trump and give him 4 more years. And also the people who never voted before. Right? That makes a lot of sense. That you can explain how Trump get more votes, because you saw the rallies, you saw the people shouting, "We love Trump," right? You can see that this, in spite of the pandemic, 56% of the populations they still consider themselves better off than 4 years ago, right? You can still see that Trump has a very reasonably steady and high approval rate. But then on the Biden side, how could Biden do better than Hillary Clinton? And not just slightly better, but almost 18 million better. How could he do that? So he did not, as I said, steal the Republican votes. He probably could not get that much from the independents, from the third parties, and then he has to get it from the people who never voted before. And then I find it hard to believe, so I call that magic. The magic. Then if you see those 2 charts, those magics were actually non-human. So thanks for watching.